The Yakutia winter drops to minus 71 degrees Celsius week after week, and the land turns iron hard. The sky turns purple. The crack of frozen wood echoes like something alive. Cut closer, a tiny Sakha hut barely 3 meters tall, holding a whole family inside. Dark, tight, heavy with the smell of cold timber and old smoke. Inside that space, every breath turns to crystals, and every breath is a promise. So here's the question, my friend. How does a wooden hut this small stay warm through a winter colder than Antarctica? How did a father keep his son warm when the air outside could freeze skin in less than a minute? Most people don't know this, but the secrets are hidden in the roof, the clothes, the habits, and the heat trapped in silence. The Balagan looks simple from the outside, just a wooden pyramid sitting under a sky so cold it turns purple. But step closer, my friend. Listen to the crack of frozen wood. Feel the air that cuts like glass around your ears. In a winter that drops to minus 71 degrees, Celsius shape is everything. And the Yakut knew that better than anyone. Their huts weren't built straight. They leaned in, every wall angled on purpose. Cutting closer, see the stacked timber pressed tight under the weight of snow. That pyramid shape wasn't just tradition, it was survival. When heat rises, a flat roof wastes it, but a pointed roof gathers it like a hand cupping a small flame. Inside that little hut, the warm pocket of breath stays near the top, where the family sleeps. No bricks, no insulation, no modern tools, just wood instinct and knowledge passed down for hundreds of years. Here's how they built it. They raised a frame of long trees. They leaned each log inward tighter and tighter. They left a thin vent near the top, just enough to let smoke escape but not warmth. And they lifted the floor high away from the permafrost that could freeze a man's bones. Do it right, and that little pyramid holds heat for hours, warm, stable, alive. Most people don't realize this, but that shape follows the same natural rule birds use in their nests. A heat trap made from nothing but angles and patience. And when you stand in that hut with a father keeping his son warm and the mother waiting for the fire to settle, you understand something deep. This isn't just a house, it's a life-saving idea. One that still teaches us today the smallest shape can fight the biggest cold. Beneath every Sakha winter hut, there's a danger most people never see. A permafrost floor sitting at minus 50 degrees Celsius, waiting to steal heat the moment wood touches it. Out here, the cold doesn't tap you on the shoulder, it cuts straight to the bone. Cut closer, look at the ground under the family's feet. If the floor sat right on that frozen earth, the warmth from the fire, the warm pocket of breath, the heat trapped in silence, it would all disappear in minutes, and at minus 71 degrees Celsius. That's the difference between night and death. But the Yakut learned something powerful. They learned that air, not wood or stone, is the best shield they have. So they built the hut on a lifted floor, a simple idea, but life-saving. First, they laid down stone steady and cold. Then they set thick wooden beams across them, and on top they spread fir bark or sawdust, anything that could hold still air like a blanket. That empty space below, that was their natural insulation pocket, a tiny buffer that blocked the freeze. Do it right, and the ground can't touch you. It can't drain your heat. It can't decide your night. Warm, stable, safe enough to sleep. Most people don't know this, but modern Arctic homes follow the exact same rule. Never let your floor touch the earth, because the earth in places like Yakutia is not a friend. It's a threat. And when you picture that family, the father checking the embers, the mother waiting for the fire to settle, the child curled under wool, you understand why they honored this rule for centuries. Out here, survival begins with one simple idea. If you want to live, do not touch the ground. Inside a Sakha winter hut, even with the fire glowing, the cold still waits in every corner. At minus 71 degrees Celsius, the air inside can feel like a freezer. And The first place that cold attacks isn't your hands or your feet, it's your head and neck. Cut closer, see the way breath turns into crystals around a man's cheeks. Hear the soft hiss of horsehair fur brushing against his skin. This is where the Yakut made their smartest move. They created the Malachi, a full head and shoulder hood, built not just to cover, but to create a microclimate, a warm bubble of air, right where the body loses heat the fastest. They built it layer by layer, horsehair on the outside, tough and windproof, soft hide on the inside to trap still air, long flaps dropping over the chest and back, a tight cord around the neck pulled close before stepping into the storm. Do it right, and the wind can't get in. The frost can't bite, the heat can't escape. No wind, no freezing, no heat lost. At minus 71 degrees Celsius, exposed skin can freeze in less than a minute. That's why this design mattered. Most modern jackets don't protect the neck and head like this old 360-degree system. But the Yakut knew if the head stays warm, the man stays alive. And when you picture a father in that hut, checking the embers, pulling the Malachi gently over his son's ears, you feel that quiet, masculine tenderness. Not loud, not soft, just enough. Most people don't know this, but survival sometimes starts with one simple truth: protect the head, and the rest will follow. Out in Yakutia, winter lasts so long that even fire becomes a precious thing. Wood is scarce, nights are endless, and burning non-stop simply isn't an option. At minus 71 degrees Celsius, if the fire dies, the cold doesn't walk in, it crashes in. Cut closer, see the father crouched by the stove, listening to the crack of frozen wood outside the walls. He knows one mistake, and the heat trapped in silence will slip away. So the Yakut created a cycle, not constant burning, but strategic burning. They used fire the way we use batteries today. First, they loaded the stove with old dense firewood, the kind that burns slow and hot. They let the flames roar until the stacked timber walls drank in the heat. Then came the key step. They closed the smoke vent, sealed the draft, and let the fire collapse into a bed of glowing ash. Those embers, that was their thermal battery, a quiet reservoir of heat that could last through the entire night. And when it worked, the payoff was simple: hot walls, steady heat, a safe night, warm, stable, alive. Most people don't know this, but the idea is the same as European masonry heaters, except the Yakut built theirs with almost nothing. No bricks, no iron, just wood, wisdom, and timing. And when you picture that family, the mother waiting for the fire to settle, the father checking the embers one last time before his son sleeps, you understand why this system mattered. Because out here, a single night is a test of planning, a test of patience, a test of a man's will to protect his own. In Yakutia, survival didn't come from burning more wood. It came from holding on to the heat you already had. Inside a Sakha hut, heat never spreads evenly. The fire glows on the floor, but in a space this small, warmth rises fast. At minus 71 degrees Celsius, that simple rule of physics becomes a matter of survival. Cut closer, see the father rubbing his hands, watching breath turn into crystals near the ground. But look just a few feet higher, and the air softens. A warm pocket of breath hangs under the ceiling beams, quiet and precious. The Yakut didn't fight that rule, they used it. They built multi-level sleeping platforms, lifting their beds into the warmest part of the hut. Not fancy, but smart. They took thick wooden posts, tied them tight, laid cross beams, hung skins, stacked furs, and topped it all with reindeer blankets that brushed warm against the cheek. Down low, the cold bites the ears. Up high, the night feels almost human. And the payoff: higher, warmer, safer. At these temperatures, the air near the floor can drop below freezing, even with a fire burning. But every foot you rise can mean several degrees gained. Enough to keep a child's fingers pink. Enough to keep a man breathing steady until morning. Picture that family now. The father checking the embers. the mother settling the blankets, the child climbing to the upper bed, like climbing toward life itself. It's a simple truth. When heat rises, you rise with it. Most people don't realize this, but modern Arctic cabins still use the same principle: elevated bunks, lofts, raised platforms. Not to be stylish, but to stay alive. In Yakutia, survival wasn't just about having heat. It was about sleeping in the one place where heat chooses to go. Outside the hut, the air at minus 71 degrees Celsius is so dry it can crack lips in minutes. It cuts like glass. It steals moisture, and with it, heat. Cut closer, the father lifts a blanket, and you can see breath turning into tiny crystals on the edge of the fur. He knows one thing: breathing open air in this cold is risk. Real risk. Every exhale pulls warmth straight out of the body. And at these temperatures, that loss can be the difference between a long night and no morning at all. So the Yakut did something simple but brilliant. They created a microclimate with nothing more than their breath. They wrapped thick fur blankets tight around the neck, not choking tight, just enough to trap the first few inches of warm, moist air. Inside that pocket, the air softens, the skin stops cracking, the throat stops burning, and the body stops losing heat so fast. It's like making a tiny weather system under the blanket, a warm bubble built from your own breath. And the payoff comes quick: less heat lost, softer skin, deeper sleep. At minus 71 degrees Celsius, regular air has almost zero humidity. It pulls moisture off the skin instantly. But under the blanket, your breath turns into a natural humidifier. The Yakut didn't need gadgets. Their bodies made the moisture they needed. Picture the scene. The father checks the fire. The mother pulls the blanket up over the child's chin. And the little one breathes out once, twice, building a warm pocket in the dark. Most people don't realize this, but breath warmth is still used today in polar expeditions. Cover your face trap, your moisture, save your heat. In places like Yakutia, you don't just survive with fire, you survive with your breath. Winter in Yakutia doesn't last weeks. It lasts months. Long enough that one wrong move, one open door, one missed ember can freeze a whole family. Zoom in. The crack of frozen wood outside the breath of a child turning white in the dim hut. This is where discipline becomes survival, because at minus 71 degrees Celsius, the cold doesn't give second chances. The Yakut learned early that heat wasn't just about fire. It was about rhythm, the daily rhythm of living inside a tiny wooden hut with no room for mistakes. They built double doors so cold air hit a small chamber first. They never stepped on the permafrost floor because touching that cold would drain body heat like a sponge. They stacked firewood against the warmest wall, letting the timber absorb heat before burning. And before sleep, they drank fat, heavy broth, letting that warm liquid push heat from the inside out. It sounds simple, but in a place like this, simple is life-saving. And the payoff is clear, stable nights, lower fuel use, longer lives. At minus 71 degrees Celsius, even opening the door at the wrong time can drop the room temperature instantly. Your thermostat clicks at 68 air degrees. Theirs was a wooden routine practiced the same way every night, every season, every generation. Picture the father checking the door latch before bed, the mother moving the firewood a little closer to the warm wall, the children waiting for the broth to cool just enough to sip. Every small action, a promise that they would see the next morning. Most people think survival is about strength, but the Yakut knew better. Survival was about discipline, the quiet, steady kind that keeps a family warm through the longest winter on Earth. And today, modern life forgot that heat discipline. But out here, it's the only reason anyone is alive. The hut is quiet now, only a warm pocket of breath left hanging in the air after months of minus 71 degrees Celsius nights. The crack of frozen wood outside feels distant, almost forgotten. In modern homes, we flip a switch, trust the heater, and never think about how warmth moves. But the Yakut, they had no electricity, yet they understood every rise of hot air, every draft, every ounce of heat trapped in silence. They didn't fight nature, they worked with it, and that's why they survived. And the truth is simple. People don't live through a winter like this because of what they own. They live because of what they know. So here's the question that lingers like ember glow in the dark. If a family in a tiny hut at 70 degrees could outsmart the cold, what other secrets of the Sakha people are still waiting to be told?